and I'll also cover off the next battery box once it arrives, because I'm doing something slightly differently with that. I've got an extra component I'm going to add. So here we have box number 2. So it's exactly the same as the first box. This isn't going to be a video showing you the step-by-step construction of it, because again it will be pretty much exactly the same as before, except for one little thing I'm going to be doing differently. But if you want to see that video, it's currently being suggested in the top corner right now. And this whole package, again, including the cells, took about a month and a half to arrive. I ordered it in early December, if I can remember correctly, and it arrived the end of January 24. So I've got an extra couple of bits, obviously, because I need to be able to connect this in parallel. So I've got a few extra bits on that front. And I've also got something else to deal with some of the cold weather that the UK has been seeing this winter. So I'm going to be doing that for the first time, and I'll show you that once I've got this lid off to show you what's arrived. Right, the lid's off, as you can see, and I've got the bits and pieces that were inside it out. And first off, you're probably drawn straight to these pads here. So these are actually heating pads. Now, I've seen a lot on the forums this year about people having trouble with their battery charging temperatures, and actual fact that a lot of manufacturers that make these pre-built batteries actually have temperature limits set, even though lithium iron phosphate shouldn't go below 0 degrees Celsius when you're charging it. Some of the manufacturers have built in sort of higher temperature sort of triggers, so that if it gets I think below 12 or 10 degrees, it will slow the charging rate, which means if you're charging from overnight electricity, which I'm also doing using Agile tariff, you can't charge your batteries up full because they have to get up to temperature. Obviously charging gets the temperature in the cells, but I thought I'd give these a go. And as you can probably see on there, I don't know if that will get in focus, but these are obviously for the Seplos Mason build as well, because this is, again, the Apexium is effectively a rebranded or rebadged version of that. So these both connect up together, and then this little cable here, don't know if you can see that, will then plug straight into the BMS, and then there's a setting within the BMS software where you can set the temperature range of when these things come on. Now, I've never used these before, so this is as much as an exploration myself to see how these are going to work. So I'm also going to see whether I can actually use them to bring the temperature of the cells up to actually get more sort of capacity out of them, because again, they have an operating range, which I'm just suggesting a video in the top corner where I found a big difference where I charged the cells at a lower temperature and then I increased the temperature and I got a lot more capacity out of them. So I'm not going to just use these if I want to put this particular batteries in the garage, which gets very cold, but I'm also going to use it to see if I can actually enhance the capacity that I get out of the cells and keep them in a really good operating range. So that'll be an experiment. So if you've not subscribed already and you want to see how I get on with that, hit the button and the bell, and then come back when I give it a go. Obviously we're coming out of winter now, but it'd be interesting to see how I can apply that in the next few months. So over here we've got all the usual bits that come with it, and they were there on the first one as well. So the numbered bags, obviously that's the BMS there, and then there's the rails there what you connect all the cells up with. And I also bought this time, I didn't actually make my own, if you've seen the first video where I made my own battery to inverter cables. I actually bought these this time because I want to use these to connect obviously the cells in parallel, or the batteries in parallel. So they're a lot shorter, and they should connect one of these particular ones up to the other battery once I've got it all set up. But this time I wanted to buy these because it's really important to remember when you're connecting batteries in parallel, the cables should be the same length for each of the batteries you're connecting. As well as that, they should all have fuses. And again, these particular cells or these particular batteries do have inbuilt fuses, so that's fine. You should really fuse each battery you connect in parallel. So those are the extra bits that I've got this time. So it'll be an interesting build. These obviously need to be stuck to the bottom first. But the other thing I need to do as well is I need to build this battery on top of the other one because it's too heavy to lift on your own. So I'm going to get the other battery in now, put it on top, and then start the build process, and I'll just update you as I go through. So while I was moving it ready to get the next battery in, I've just remembered to say that they've actually got little pads in here now, so there's like absorption in there. So when you're stacking the batteries on top now, there's a little bit sort of more absorption, so that once you put the clips on, which the clips around the side, and there's, if you can see, there's 2 holes at the back for the clips at the back. So these clips hold the batteries together. The other thing I've also noticed on this one as well is they've got these little bungs that go on the feet underneath. So they were already on there, so I'm just going to put that back on, and then that should just slip into the top of the other battery, no problem. But I just thought I'd mention that before I start the rest of the build. Original battery ready to take the other one on top so I can actually get this built. Worked flawlessly so far. It'd be interesting to see how this 450 kilogram Dolly gets on, because I think these are about 125 kilograms each when they're fully loaded with the 280 amp hour cells. So let's get the other one on top in the holes. There weren't any padding on these ones, so see how well those fit in there. But I'm going to fit the clamps the last thing once I've got it all built up, so because they can just be screwed in from the outside, and obviously the one on the back of it as well, and then see how we get on. But what I'm going to do differently this time is I'm not going to top balance the cells. I've seen a few videos online where that's not actually been done, so I'm just going to put them in as they've arrived. The version 3 280 amp hour EVE cells, and literally just see how I get on with it like that this time round. Obviously I'm going to put the heating pads in once I've got this mounted on top. Right, goggles on time now. As you can see, I've set the protective sheet up inside as I did on the first box. Seem to have a better knack of it this time. Obviously you learn the more you do. So I'm going to install the heating pads now. I've had to rely on what I've seen online, so hopefully this will be set out right. And obviously once it's all hooked up and that, again, I've never used them before, so this is really a trial. If they end up not turning out to be very good or not working as I want them to, I can literally just unplug them from the BMS, and then we'll call that a day and say that was something ventured but nothing gained kind of setup. So let's grab the heating pads now and see if we can get them stuck on the bottom. Right, so I've got the heating pads out now, and so underneath there's some more tape here, and it looks like foam, so it's got foam backing. I'm hoping you can see that, but that foam backing is similar to what I'm going to put between each of the cells, and then obviously some 3M tape I've got to peel off there and then stick to the bottom. So I've got to try and figure out the best way to actually get these little sort of parts that come out from the heating elements and get them up through here. I think I've got them, get them through there so it can come out and then plug into the BMS. So let's get these stuck in now and figure out how that clips in, and getting these out of this end here so that I can actually get them both hooked up and start to load the box up with cells. Okay, so I've hit a snag already. This is stuck down and is not moving. This stuff is stuck so solid that I can't even pull it back up now. So what I'm going to have to do is probably punch a little hole right down here so that I can actually get these fed through and then up through here. So let's go and find a way of doing that. So I went for the path of least resistance and just pulled this sheet off here, which gives me the opportunity to actually just feed this up inside. So I'm going to do it that way round, and possibly should have been the way I did it in the first place. So hopefully I can get this through here, because again this looks quite tight, because obviously once I need to do is just get one through and then get the other one through as well, and then I can stick this plate back on. But this is obviously going to be a little bit more tricky than I'd originally estimated. So let's try and get that through, which is going to be a bit tough. I think the only other way is probably to go up here along, because again the plug size on these is kind of a little bit too big. So I'm going to go back to the drawing board shortly and then come back hopefully with another option. So I double checked and it does actually come through this, which makes a lot more sense to me. Almost broke this first connector, but again, lesson learned. So I'm going to do the same the other side and see if I can get this stuck back down now so that it's actually still in one piece, so that there's all that protection around the side, so the cells, if anything goes wrong, don't touch the metal. So that's the reason for these protection sheets. So I'm just going to put this one back now and then do the other one. So all stuck down now. I need to figure out how best to deal with the bits where the piece comes from the heating pad up to supply the cables, but I'll see how that goes as I actually mount the cells in the box. So I'll mount the cells now and see how we get on. So I had no option, quite a crude hole I had to cut there. So I'm going to do that to the other side now. Lesson learned on this one, do it before you take the backing off, again if you're going for the heating pads, and also have a sharp knife and cut it on both sides as well, because this stuff's really quite tough. So hopefully this will cover that off and this epic saga of just connecting these heat mats will be done. Right, I've hit a snag I was hoping I wasn't going to hit. Now down here, the little bit that sticks out on the heating pad is not enabling me to get the cell flat enough so that it lines up with the others. So whatever way I put it in, it's just not working properly. So it's not, the cell isn't flat enough to make a good connection because these all need to be in line. So I'm going to make an executive decision. I'm going to try and get these out. This has been a failure until I can find another way of doing this, because obviously I want this to be up and running and working so that I've got my 30 kilowatt hours. So I'm going to pull these out now, and then I'm going to go back to the drawing board and find out how I can do it, maybe in a future video, or approach it again when I don't want to just get this battery back commissioned. So we mark that down as a fail. If you're looking at these at the moment, I wouldn't bother. So with a bit of brute force, I managed to get them off. There's still a bit of the adhesive from the underside of the pad stuck on the bottom. But again, I'm not too fussed about that. I just want to get these new cells in. And I found the little bits that I've cut out as well from the side sheet. So I'm going to stick those back in as well. And then just get on with assembling the battery. Okay, right, all the cells are in now. I've double checked to make sure they're all in the right place, all at a good level, all lined up nicely. I've got the front plate on here. And again, if you want to see the full video, it's already been suggested and it's in the description below. So I'm going to connect all these up now and get to the next stage. Everything hooked up now, ready to go. I've just got to connect all of the cells and the balance leads and temperature sensors in now to get this all set up and then ready for the next stage. But so far, so good. All the cells are connected up now. All the leads are also attached to the cells. I've gone round and double checked all the torque settings on each of these, and they're all set to where they should be. So this is now a ready to go battery pack. So I'm going to go and construct the front panel, which has the BMS on there, and also the connection points as well. So I'm going to get that done now and then assemble it, and hopefully we have a working battery. As you can see, the front panel is now ready to go. I've got a few finishing touches to do, but obviously I want to make sure it works first. So everything has been constructed on the back as well. And again, if you want to see the full video on this, is linked in the description below. But everything now is attached and all the connection points have been checked now. Really now just need to get the front on and check whether it all works. Almost there, front panel is now attached. I've put all the screws in. Obviously I'll need to take any out if there are any problems. Just need to connect up the main negative and the main positive on the battery itself, and then put the balance leads on there as well, so obviously it can read the whole of voltage cell by cell as well. I'll torque them down as well to the right settings and the right level before connecting the BMS leads up, the long one first, then the short one, and then pushing the reset button on the front and see if we've got one that's alive. Right, these are down now, torqued in to the right settings. Just going to quickly have a look at what we've got at the battery level as in voltage. So let's see what we've got. And we've got 52.7. Let's move that up so you can see that. And I'll try and hold those on at the same time. There we go. 52.7 volts. So now it's time to plug these in. So let's get that out of the way. So the long one first. Let's get that in there and then push that in. Okay, that's the first one, and then the short one second. Let's get that one in there. Make sure they're in fully. And I'm going to lower the camera now and we're going to switch it on and see if we've got a battery. Right, moment of truth. I've just put the lid on just in case anything pops. I've not screwed it down yet. That'll be one of the final things, much like putting the buttons on here and the front sticker. And then obviously figuring out how I'm going to connect it up with the master and then the backup or slave, however I've got to set that up. So I need to look at that as well. So all comes down to a paper clip. So let's push the reset button and hope we don't get an explosion. Oh, we got it coming up. Battery management, let's push the confirm button. Okay, the state of charge will be off at the moment because again it's not done any charging or discharging, but it looks to me as if we have a working battery. Registering on at 52.63 volts. Excellent. So apart from the debacle with the heating pads, got another battery and just doubled 15 to 30 kilowatt hours of storage. So now I'm just going to see how I can set these up. Obviously they're at different voltages at the moment, so I need to be careful about connecting them in parallel at the moment. So but I've got some really good cheap, in actual fact energy overnight 0 pence per kilowatt hour on the Octopus Agile tariff. So I'm going to really need to charge this up overnight and figure out the capacity. I'm not going to change anything on the capacity section like I did before, where I just put this in as just as 300 amp hours. But I'm going to let this charge, hopefully fully charge and discharge, to try and get an idea. But it might take a little while because there's pretty much no solar in the UK at the moment. I'm having to rely on grid energy. But yeah, overnight grid energy is going to be nice and cheap. So hopefully I can fill both of these up and have quite a substantial amount waiting to use over the next few days, or even stretch it out to a week. Right, fast forward almost a week now, and I've actually got them both connected up in parallel, and I've been running them successfully. Now, I will say it was a bit of a trial and error, especially when it's to do with connecting up the communications. So I'll cover that in a minute, but as you can see, the two leads that I bought for the parallel connections obviously are connecting both the negatives and the positives together. I'm running one of the positives off of the newer top battery and the negative off of the bottom, so that's supposed to help with current sharing. I've got everything plugged in as I had done before, so I've got the homemade lead plugged into one of the RS485 connections, going straight up into solar assistance, so exactly the same as before. And the other thing that I've done obviously is I've had to connect up the other port, so the RS4852 port, and I bought myself just a short 30 centimetre flat cable there, standard Ethernet, straight through cable, just to connect those two ports up so obviously the batteries can communicate together. So initially I actually got it set up incorrectly, so I followed what was in the instructions for the boxes for parallel running. But what I hadn't realised is I'd actually connected them up to use CAN bus. So if I was going to connect up to an inverter that supported CAN bus, so what was happening was I wasn't actually getting any readings from Solar Assistant, because ultimately it's connected together and using RS485, so that connects up here right in using this USB cable here. So I found out that it wasn't actually communicating at all, and I couldn't see any of those. So what I did notice as well is the fact that I went on the Solar Assistant website and I realised that I'd actually connected both of the dip switches up for CAN bus, but I needed just to change them in the format that I've got at the moment. So the primary battery here was just having pin 1 up to signify that it was actually pin 1 on the RS485 connection, and then the second battery, if I can get that in focus, was pin 2 up, and that's all I needed to do, so that both of the cables actually worked, so that then Solar Assistant could work and give me the info that I needed. But the problem with that is the fact that you can't use the Bluetooth app, so you can't actually use the app anymore when you've got it connected up like this. But what you can do is just connect this particular cable into Solar Assistant or into a PC or laptop, and you actually read the information directly from the batteries like that. So that was another another lesson learned on that. So make sure your dip switches are correct for how you want it set up. So when I eventually try and get these set up to work with an on-grid inverter, obviously I'll be using CAN bus, so I'd need to reconnect these or change these dip switches to work as I had in the first place. So that means that having it in the configuration at the moment, I can't use the Bluetooth app, but I can use this cable for Solar Assistant and for connecting up to a laptop to do the configuration. So on its own it works fine with the Bluetooth app. Obviously when you've got more than that, you need to set it up for CAN bus, because then the app still works. So I'm going to quickly show you through Solar Assistant now, just to show you how these come through and how these have been monitoring. Right, as you can see, I'm in Solar Assistant on my phone at the moment. So I've got all the usual bits and pieces, and if you want to see the full Solar Assistant video, it's just being suggested in the top corner right now. But the important bit that I'm focusing on in this is just the battery. So obviously I'll click on the battery now, which is showing 43% overall. So the top part of this now is actually showing sort of a culmination, or the roll up, if you like, of both batteries and what's available. So I've set both of them as the 300 amp hours. I know I said earlier on in this video that I'm not going to set pack 2, which is the newer pack, to that, but I just set it there for ease of sort of reading and in general usage. So once I can get them doing the full cycle, when we've got a bit better weather in the UK, then I can actually do that, do full cycles and understand better what their actual capacity is. So looking up and down here, initially the pack 1 and 2 bit didn't work, and until I'd sorted out the RS485 connections, as I've just shown you. So pack 1 is obviously the master pack, which was the one that I started off on and obviously added to. It gives you all the usual bits and pieces on there, which I covered in the previous video. We're up to 16 cycles on that one now. And pack 2 is obviously the newer one, so we're just over a week in, I think, now when I'm recording this. As you can see on here, there's a little bit difference in the charge capacity. So we've got 140 amp hours versus 120 amp hours. Again, I just think that's because they haven't had a full charge and discharge both of them to make sure that they're in good shape. So in general terms, the pack information is really useful to look at, just to see how the load comes off and on. So when I'm charging off of cheap or actually free energy, and where I've been paid to charge recently with Octopus's Agile tariff, I was able to fill up both batteries, which was amazing. So go down to the graphs at the bottom, they give you a bit better view of what it looks like. So it shows power in and out on both boxes and state of charge as it currently is. I've seemed to found that when it gets to the higher state of charge, they seem to be more in alignment, so that's good. The only thing I can make the assumption on here is that the BMSs in this current setup try and keep the voltage the same. As you can see, the voltage is 52.9 volts at the moment. And the other thing I've noticed as well is obviously the box on top is going to be slightly warmer, obviously, because heat rises. So the temperature on the box on the top, so the newer box, is always more. So cell temperature there on pack 1 is at 17.2, 16.8, and obviously on the pack 2, which is on top, it's 19, 18.9, 18.8. The other thing I've noticed as well is it keeps the cell voltages very much in line as well. So it looks like this setup is purely to keep the overall pack voltage and cell voltages very close together. And as you can see, there's no real load on it at the moment, but they're very, very close in terms of balance. But it's when you really put the load on these packs that they shift a bit. I've not really noticed much deviation, so at the moment looks pretty good. But that's just a quick whistle-stop tour of how it sort of rolls up the battery power to an overall figure, which is at the top, as you can see, and then you can actually drill down to each of the individual packs, and that's coming out of that lead, that RS485 lead, that homemade lead that I've got. And I'm trying to find a ready-made lead, and I think I might have found one, but I'll share that in a later video. And you can hear the fans just cut back in now because we've got a little bit of solar and we're getting excited. So go back to the main screen and you can see a bit more solar's coming in, not been great. But in general terms, having this almost 30, well, it is 30 kilowatt hours worth of storage now, has meant that I could basically charge, I think it was, this is being recorded on a Saturday, I charged on the Monday, early hours of Monday morning, and I've not had to recharge. And again, solar, as you can see at the top, I've only had 4 kilowatt hours this week, so I've been running normal operations all week, and I've not had to recharge back off the grid because again the prices haven't been that great. So yeah, I like the battery information. I love the layout on this particular app, and again, you probably can guess that I'm a fan of Solar Assistant. Very much like it, ease of use, able to see where you are out and about anywhere as well. Working brilliant with Home Assistant for switching on and charging off grid. So that's really that in terms of the initial look at getting these two batteries together, doubling them up. Obviously I'm going to continue to try and scale the system when money allows. That's it really for this video. So if you do have any comments, questions or suggestions, especially about if you've managed to get the heat pads installed on similar boxes without any problems at all, I'm contacting the manufacturer to find out if there's a way around that or an easier way so that I don't damage the heating pads. But please let me know in the comments and I'll respond to your comments as soon as I can. Thanks very much for watching and stay tuned to Dad Vinci.